Just notice where you are right now. Notice where you're sitting or possibly standing. You might be on your phone or on your computer. Notice your posture. Don't try to change anything. Just notice how the body's set. Notice your breath. Once again, not changing it, not judging it. Just notice the depth, the flow, the rhythm of your breath. Is it deep? Is it shallow? Is it smooth? Is it erratic? Just notice the feeling of the breath coming in and the breath going out. And give yourself a couple breaths just to connect. All right. What I'd like you to do now, as best you can, is to get yourself in a position where you can lengthen your spine a little bit. If you're sitting, maybe even support your back if that's possible. Or if you're standing, just straighten up a little bit. Just looking for an extended spine as best you can without being uncomfortable. With that spine lengthened, let your belly relax. Now, if you can breathe in and out of your nose, that's great. If that doesn't work for you, of course, breathe through the mouth. On one of your next inhalations, as you bring the breath in, let the belly gently expand with that inhale. And as you exhale, press the breath out fully. The belly will relax naturally. Just finding the biggest breath you have now. The breath comes in, the belly expands. As you exhale, it gently recedes. And see if you can move towards that full exhalation. On one of your next inhalations, as the breath comes in, the belly expands, and you might feel your ribs expand to the sides, like you were spreading your fingers apart. And then full exhale. Breath comes in, the belly expands, the ribs expand, and then full exhalation. And lastly, the breath comes in, the belly expands, the ribs expand, and let your shoulders rest back gently as you open the chest and fill the lungs up to the collarbones. And then full exhalation. All right. Now, the breath really isn't three parts. We break it down like that to study it. The breath is one fluid movement, like you were filling a water pitcher from the bottom up. And when you exhale, it's like emptying the pitcher from the top down. The breath you just practiced is what we call the diaphragmatic breath. I like baby breath because it reflects that this is our most natural breath. This is the one we're born with. We're wired for this breath. But over time, through life and through posture and maybe some injuries or some physical things going on with us, we distort the breath. But the good news, it's there to be awakened, to remember. Why is the breath so important? Well, how did you feel? How did you feel after that last breath, that last series of breaths? Did you feel a little more relaxed, maybe? Maybe even a little more energized? Felt like you had a little bit more range of motion with breath as you started to change your posture, and look for that. Pay attention to that depth and the full exhalation. The breath is really a very powerful tool for us in this whole practice for a number of reasons. First of all, the breath, by its nature, brings us in, our focus on the breath brings us into the present moment. You've never taken a breath in the past or the future. Every breath we take, by its nature, is in the moment. And what that does is that it takes us out of that future thinking and past thinking, two places where we tend to generate a lot of anxiety and stress. The second thing is that full range of breath, that diaphragmatic breath, especially with the full exhalation, stimulates what we said, the relaxation response in the nervous system. It naturally de-stresses us. In fact, the breath is your most powerful and readily accessible stress healing tool that you've got available. The breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. When the mind or the body are stressed, in pain, or out of balance in some way, the breath is going to be the first place to reflect it. You may not be cognizantly aware of that pain, but if you learn to just listen to the breath, notice your breath, you're going to notice if something's off. There's a number of ways that I'm going to recommend to you to practice this breath, how to reclaim it. Some things you can do during your day, daily opportunities just to take control of the breath. The breath is the only system in our body that's either completely voluntary or involuntary. Normally, we walk around, we breathe naturally, we don't think about it. But we have the opportunity, the ability to stop, take control of the breath, take the reins, train it up, and then let it go back to its involuntary mode. One of the ways that we can practice this diaphragmatic breath in day-to-day activities is to do what we call a stoplight breathing. So when you're in the car and you're driving and you come to a stop light, not a stop sign, if you're listening to music, turn off the music for a moment. If you're in a conversation, pause your conversation. Keeping your eyes open, take the opportunity to stop and drop into that diaphragmatic breath that we just practiced. For the duration of the stoplight, just breathe. This is your chance to stop and breathe. The light turns green, resume activities, drive, turn the music back on, what have you. Every time you come to a stoplight, stop and breathe. See how your relationship to stoplights changes over time. My experience is people begin to enjoy or anticipate enjoying those stoplights. Another powerful method to employ the breath during the day and to train it or get more fluid with it is what we call it transition breath, a 3-breath transition. The idea here is that when you're making a sort of a very noticeable physical transition, like you get up from the chair to go get a cup of coffee, or you get into the car or get out of the car, you change rooms, this type of thing, is when you go to make the transition, before you make it, stop and take 3 of those diaphragmatic breaths. I mean, you're going to breathe anyway. Take those opportunities in the day to not only notice your posture, notice your breath, but take control of the breath. Use these chances to retrain, to remember the breath.